Okay, today we're going to do a little tutorial on how to cut a mat for your projects. This is 11 by 14 mat board, and as you can see, one side is white, one side is black. This is the Logan Mat Cutter. We had some issues making sure the blade was properly installed, so be sure that that's properly installed, and also be sure that you have a very sharp blade in there. Ask an instructor to do it instead of going and doing that yourself, because no cut should happen here. We don't want anyone to get cut or hurt. So the first thing you want to do is, you see this little slider. It's not very secure. You can tighten it in. I found that it's just best used really lightly. And if you want a 2-inch border, you set it at 2 inch. You lift up the mat. It's like a weight for the mat. You can slide your mat board along this area, and you can notice there's a ruler here as well as a ruler here and rulers here as well. So lots of areas to check your measurements. I'm butting mine up against this 2-inch mark, and I would like a 2-inch border. Now everyone for the projects are going to have different borders, so you have to calculate your borders based on the proportions of your project. Try not to go below 1 inch. Ideally it's 2 inch, but a lot of people have different proportionate projects, so as long as you're perfectly centered, that's fine. Quickly, if you're not perfectly centered, like if you have a square piece, generally the exhibition style mat cutting is that you have the same border on the top, the left and right. Whatever extra falls towards the bottom. If you don't have a piece that's square, if you have something that's more rectangle, you want to visually center it and do like a perfectly even border on the left and right, perfectly even top and bottom. Okay, so the one I'm going to do is a 2-inch border all the way around. Again, I'm going to line this up at the 2-inch mark, butt my mat up right up against that, and then I'm just going to draw a line. The 2-inch mark, we're face down. Okay, so now I have my window that I'm going to cut out. And then, of course, an 8.5 by 11 piece will fit nicely on there to be perfectly centered when you cut out your mat. Okay, quickly, the right side of this is a straight cutter, so that's going to cut straight lines. Or if you have a larger piece of mat board, you can then cut your mat board that way. You pull this out, you release it on top, and then you bring it forward. You put your mat under there, and then you cut. Make sure that you keep that locked into place so that you don't accidentally put your fingers over here when you're trying to cut. This left side is your actual bevel mat cutter. So what you want to do is, as I showed you before, we'll line up to that 2-inch mark again. We're going to push it. We're going to push it forward. Whoops. Here what's happening is I had this locked into place, but kind of have to have it up. Just lock it into place when you're not using it. Okay, so there's an area here where you see a little red dot. That's telling me to stop at that 2-inch border mark that I showed you earlier. And then there's a green. That's where the mat goes down to cut, as in go. Green go, red stop. So what I'll do is I'm gonna hold down my weight. I'm going to cut right into the mat, and I'm going to pull forward. And then, right when the red hits there, that next border line, you can stop. I'll lift up my mat, and you notice I already have one cut. And if you see from this side, it's a bevel. Nice bevel cut. So you lift up, put this down here. Again, you push forward, you find that green and red. The red tells you to stop. Green shows you where the mat cutter will go down. You pull forward and then stop. Lift up. Do that all the way around. And again, everyone's dimensions will be different. You'll have to calculate those dimensions. See me if you have any questions regarding that. Make sure your blade is always sharp. If your blade is not sharp, come see the instructor. She will change the blade as best as possible. Thanks to Jana today for taking the video and for helping me change the blade.
You're welcome.
She's been my assistant. And we have an audience member watching. Stephanie, thanks for being part of the audience today. Now, if you have something that's not perfectly cut off, don't go ahead and yank it. This one's, you gotta carefully do something about it, and I would suggest taking a X-Acto knife and cutting it there so that you're not having any tears. Of course, we've got lots of X-Acto knives around this room, but of course none immediately available to me. Aha! Found them. The X-Acto is always the designer's best friend, and of course it just came off without me even needing it. But you want to have a really nice, of course this has a little issue right here, but if you come to find that the front part of your mat has any issues, use a black marker, do the best you can to kind of repair that. But for the most part, you should have a nice bevel like this. What you'll do next is you'll take your 8.5 by 11 piece of artwork, you will center it, you will use acid-free tape on all 4 sides, and then I also have chipboard for you. In this cabinet, there's chipboard. Once you get your piece taped down, you can then take the chipboard, line it up here, tape acid-free tape at the top, and then gently fold it down. Then you have a piece mounted with your mat board. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.